Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video. It's a little bit long, so you might want to pause and go get a cup of tea and come back and get cozy. But I appreciate you taking time to listen to it. I'm going to be reading off a script, so you're going to see my eyes go up and down. I'm trying to keep myself organized. This semester I've been thinking a lot about the Simply Music approach to piano that I started teaching now 10 years or so ago, and I'm trying to deepen my own understanding of this unique method. I've been teaching for a pretty long time, but in some ways I feel like I'm just beginning to wrap my mind around how this way of learning works in Simply Music. It's a very broad curriculum, and there are several segments of it that I have not even taught before, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much, because it's very rich and deep and creative, and I don't think I would be teaching piano if it weren't for Simply Music. I think Simply Music keeps me really engaged, and I feel like it has just sort of something for everybody. As all of you know, I had traditional training growing up and in college and grad school, where I played almost exclusively from the page. I was decoding the notes from the page. So embracing Simply Music has been a big shift for me, and in my thinking and in my teaching. I find it very challenging and sort of pushes the envelope for me as a musician, as well as for my students in my teaching method. I'd like to start by talking about how most people, including myself, learn to play piano. I learned to play in a reading-based approach, or a reading-based environment, which simply means that I learned the language of music. So with this piece, for example, I would learn that this is a treble clef, this is a bass clef, this is an F sharp, and it's on that line because all the Fs are sharp if you play it, which means it's in the key of G. This is in 3/4 time, so it means 3 beats in a measure, and a quarter note gets one of the beats. This is a quarter note, but this is an eighth note. You put two eighth notes together, that's one beat. This, however, is a dotted half note. It gets 3 beats. You hold that for the whole time while the right hand's playing this, and so on. It gets complicated. Simply Music incorporates reading music notes, but later on in the program. But the heart of Simply Music is a playing-based approach. With this approach, instead of reading music notes, a person maps out the music on the keyboard by creating what I like to call a construct of the piece in their brain. So if you don't have any music notes, how are you going to learn it? Some of you know the story about Neil when he was a little boy. He was taking piano lessons, and he would really watch his teacher's hands and see patterns and figure out what was happening. Then he would go home and play it. His teacher soon realized that he was not reading the music notes. He was just playing it from his head. So she says, she or he, I think actually he had a male teacher, he said to Neil's mother, you know, he's not reading the music notes. And she said, well, that's okay, he's doing well, let's just let him keep going. So he may not have learned to read the music notes real fluently back then, but what he experienced became the basis of this method. Simply Music calls this approach the playing-based approach as opposed to the reading-based approach. What are some of the tools in this? I'm sure if you were here you could tell them to me, but I'll just sort of name off a few. Seeing and hearing patterns. Seeing shapes of chords and melody lines. Using your ear to predict what is going to happen next. Using your reference book as a clue, as a jumping off place. Spoken instructions, like in Fur-Elise when you go 1 and 2 and 3, 2, 4, 3, 1. The spoken instructions, and you speak them out loud. It connects the brain to the fingers. Rhythm charts, musical sentences, your own hooks that you create in your mind about how a piece is as you analyze it. Some of you think of things that I haven't thought of, and that's awesome. Using these kinds of tools to memorize a piece allows you to walk into a room with a piano without anything in front of you and play beautiful pieces, beautiful music. That's the goal of Simply Music, is to have a large repertoire of pieces in your mind. That's what we call the playlist. Pieces you can play without any assistance. You just know it in your mind. Is that hard? Yeah, it is sometimes. It's hard for me sometimes. But is it possible? Of course, it is absolutely possible. A lot of us think we can't memorize well. We have trouble remembering. And while it is challenging at times, and it may be harder for some of us as we age, it is a skill that can grow. It's a new way of learning for many of us, and it takes focus and discipline and trust to learn this way. And the more you exercise your muscle memory, the stronger it will become. Let me just pause for a minute and say how much I highly value being able to read music. It has greatly enriched my life to be able to pick up a piece of music and play it, to accompany choirs, to sight read things immediately from the page. I think it's a wonderful skill to have. I love that I have this skill, and I want my students to have this skill. So in no way am I downgrading reading music. It's just that I want you to have both of these skills, reading-based skills and playing-based skills. So let's talk a little more deeply about the reference book. These books have in them what I would like to call hooks or learning clues, small hints about how a piece is put together. Many of you discover and say to me quite often, everything's not here. I can't, what does the left hand do here, right? So this is where your muscle memory comes in. Using this as a jumping off place to sort of kind of remind you of how this piece goes. Alongside the videos, you begin to construct in your mind a picture like a jigsaw puzzle that fits together. You might even need to jot something down occasionally to help you remember. But what I don't want you to do, just to keep it sort of clean, is not to write a lot of things. I've seen some of your books, and they have a lot of stuff written on them. And when you look at that, the brain doesn't know what to focus on. There's so much stuff there. So if you need to write something down to help you remember a little bit, use a sticky note, stick it here, and then when you've learned it and memorized it, you just take it off. You don't need it. Now, what I don't want you to write on this little piece of paper is left hand, F sharp, B, G, A, eighth notes, da da da. I mean, you don't want to write the whole piece on this little piece of paper. You might write yourself a little hint, like these are little hints. All right. In addition to the reference book, you always have your videos. You have my videos, which are really slow. Plus, the greatest tool you have is what's in your mind and how your own mind analyzes the piece and puts it together. We all think differently, and you're going to remember in a way that I don't. For all of you out there, including me, who love to read music, never fear. We're going to have plenty of projects where you read directly from the page. But in this one segment of Simply Music, in what we call the Foundation Program, there are 9 foundation books. In the Foundation Program, I want you to keep it playing based as much as possible. Some of you say, well, I look at this reference book, and I don't know what this means. That's understandable. If I looked at this, I would say, what the heck? I don't know. So you have to dive into the videos to understand what this means. At your lesson, I'm telling you what it means. And if you still don't get it, reach out to me. Send me an email. I will tell you what this means, because I don't want you to go a week without understanding what the diagrams mean. It's an essential part. Can you use your music to understand how to play the piece? Occasionally, I'll pick up the music and I'll go, oh, that's what's happening in measure 3. So I'll look at it, I'll figure out a way to remember, and then I'll put it away, and then I'll try to play by memory. Remember, your foundation pieces are being learned in a playing-based way, and that your reading pieces are being learned in this way. Your two separate goals, two purposes in your music education. And the goal is to keep your playing-based pieces alive so that you have a large repertoire. That's the Simply Music wants you to have this large repertoire, so when you walk into Aunt Zelda's house, you can sit down and play Für Elise for her and she'll be very impressed. I have attached at the end of this email some steps for success, which are 8 different steps that I would like for you to print and put on your music rack because I think they'll be helpful to you. I'm going to go through them quickly. There are 8 of them, and just speak through. This is how you're learning a piece in a playing-based way. So, first thing that happens, I introduce to you the piece in your lesson. You watch me play it. Don't write notes. Don't put, she's got her left hand finger on G. Don't write anything down. Just watch. Just try to take it in holistically. You'll notice things. You always tell me wonderful things. You see patterns. You hear patterns. You notice my right hand's playing a melody. You notice the left hand's playing chords or whatever. So just take it in. That's the first thing. Second thing, after your lesson, watch the videos in small segments. Watch the video, play it. Watch the next little piece, play it. Have your reference book out. Make sure you absolutely know what this means. 4, speak the instructions. Say out loud. This is my top pinky playing. This is walking my fingers all the way up. This is playing the bottom, which is the bottom of my hand. It's my thumb. So speak. If you cannot speak these, you don't know what they mean. If I ask you in the lesson, tell me what this diagram means, you can go boom, and you'll know what it means. 5th thing, play the patterns away from the piano. This is something that I don't stress enough, but I think is very important. For example, play it on the table. Play the pattern on the table. Play it on top of your lid. Play it on your paper keypad. Take yourself away from hearing, because this is going to force you to think cognitively, how is this pattern expressed through my fingers? And then when you play on the piano and you get the feedback of the sound, that's a bonus, right? But you want to cognitively know what the pattern is. 6, slowly practice your right hand. Slowly. Slowly practice your left hand. Very slowly put your hands together. And this could be over a couple of weeks. You don't want to do everything too quickly. The slower you play, the faster you learn. You know that. If you still struggle, go back to step 1 and start over. Takes some patience, but the rewards are good. Whew! Okay, I hope that's been helpful. I just noticed this thing is now over 13 minutes long, which is a long video. But I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I've been speaking to some of you about these things, and I thought it might be helpful just to say it in a video to everyone to help them grasp what I'm trying to express. I really welcome your response to it to see if it was helpful in understanding the Simply Music approach. So reach out with your comments, reach out with your questions, and don't forget to print the attached steps to success. And thank you so much for letting me be your coach in this wonderful journey. Be well.